chat. We will try to get to them today. If not, we promise we will get to them before the end, before the start of next session. So we'll try for that. One other item before we get started, I wanted to announce that the ARMA Southeast Sunshine Conference is holding their annual seminar March 5th, 6th, and 7th in Orlando. I think many of you that I have noticed that signed up are actually attending, but if you haven't, you might want to look into it. It's very popular, very educational. All the credits are available. The 5th is a Wednesday, of which there are education seminars, and then the 6th and 7th are the conference. So if you haven't checked it out, I would go online. It's called the Southeast Sunshine Conference in Orlando. So I think with that, I will turn it over to Ray. And Ray, if you want to start the presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich, and welcome everybody to the second semester that we've had. We started with our fall 2024 semester, as Rich said, and we're continuing on here with our spring semester 2025. I do want to give a shout out to all the various government records managers that are on this call. While I don't get a chance to talk to you as much as I used to in a previous job I had, with the current situation happening with the current administration, I am rooting for you every day to be able to find your records, knowing that life is a little bit different lately. So we all have our challenges in records management, and hopefully yours are minimal and small and don't happen. So, but to everybody, please welcome to this broadcast, and we're looking forward to the 5 classes in this semester. Give me a second because now my screen wants, there we go. What is IDEA? Well, IDEA is the Innovative Development Education Academy. It's your free educational resource for records management and information governance. We have educational offerings in a couple different ways. We do multiple webinar seminars, like we're doing with the spring semester, 5 different webinars in our series. And we also do individual webinars throughout the year. For those of you that would care to get notifications through LinkedIn, you'll see our group page on LinkedIn. We'd definitely love to hook up and build our community there. So feel free to reach out and join our community. But that's what IDEA is all about. The 5 classes that we're going to have in this semester, you now see before you. We're doing today, February 24th, gaining organizational support and identifying your stakeholders and sourcing program funding. On March 10th, we're going to talk about On the Road Again, the intersection of RIM and e-discovery. March 24th will be metadata, the what, when, and where of records management. And my own personal opinion is records management would literally be impossible without understanding metadata. So I hope everybody can join us for that class. I'm all about, because I used to come from the banking industry, records management in banking, but I'm all about checks and balances and making sure that you're running your program effectively, legally, and efficiently. And we're going to talk about auditing your records management program on April 7th, and we're going to finish our semester on April 21st. It's about probably one of the more interesting topics we have right now and the more called for topics, and that's navigating the risks and the rewards of artificial intelligence in records management. So that's our lineup for this semester, and we hope that you can definitely join us. As Rich said, through AIM, ARMA, and the ICRM, we thank them for partnering with us for another semester. There are continuing education credits, no matter how they refer to them, as either CEUs or CMPs. So you will earn those by watching each of the classes, whether you watch them live like you're doing today, or whether you listen to the recording. At the end of our semester, we'll ask you to complete a quick survey. Tell us what you thought. Give us suggestions for the following semester. And then from there, once you submit that, you'll be able to download your certificate of completion, and that will be your evidence that you did attend and you qualify for those continuing education credits. Also, if you have a chance to listen live, that's great. Some people like to listen more than once. I know I watched a movie with my niece and nephew over the weekend, and my nephew made reference to a scene that I don't even remember. And yet all 3 of us were in the same room watching the movie. So I have to go back and watch that. So it's amazing how we can miss some things the first time around. So for the people that watch it live, you can always go back and watch the recording and make sure you got everything. And if you happen to miss a class, you can always listen to the recording as well, because we do record each and every session for you. As Rich said, I am the IDEA class host. My name is Ray Davis. I'm a senior principal consultant for RIM for Innovative Development. I have over 30 years in records management and information governance. The majority of that time, over 20 years, is as an end user, working primarily in the financial services industry, also in investments as well as insurance. And for the life of me, I know we had another division and I can't remember it off the top of my head. So I'm kind of all over the place, but mainly in banking. Member of ARMA International for over 30 years, been a member of AIM, and I am the current chapter president for the ARMA Keystone chapter, located in the great state of Pennsylvania. My co-host, you heard his voice, you hear his name, it's Rich Slaughter. He is the marketing manager for Innovative Development. He has over 10 years in the profession. He's also a part of the ARMA Keystone PA chapter. He is the vice president of our board, and he's also the chapter president for the Philadelphia chapter of ACEDS. So we thank you for joining us today. For those of you that this is your first semester, and if it is, we thank you very much for tuning in with us. We'll use all the tools in the tool belt. When we talk about records management, we're going to use actual records management examples that we've experienced over time. I'll tell you stories. For those of you that were a part of last semester, you are not shocked by that. I tell a lot of stories. There's analogies we can talk about. We may even do a survey or two this semester and then share those survey results with you. And if there are case studies that we can get permission, that maybe someone else did a case study and we can get permission to share that with you. We even use case studies to talk about records management and information governance. So by all means, we use every tool in the tool belt to give you the education that you need. I told you I tell stories. We do have to give a disclaimer. Ray loves to tell stories and he's got a lot of them, but he can sometimes I can get off track. And that's why Rich is here. He'll make sure that Ray stays on track. And you've probably figured it out by now. Ray loves to talk about himself in the third person, and I do so frequently. So welcome. Thank you for being here again. We greatly appreciate it. If you have a question during the class, please keep your microphones muted. Just enter your question into the chat box. Rich monitors that chat box, and he'll wait for the appropriate time to ask me the question. If there are any questions we don't get to during a particular class, then we make sure that we get those answers for you and we talk about it at the beginning of the next class. So with that said, let's get started with class one, because we are definitely ready for takeoff. Our agenda for today, we're going to start with Q and Ray. We'll move on to organizational setup and the records management pyramid of dedication. We'll talk about records management organizational behavior, because what we're going to learn about in today's class is, we're not going to talk about how you save a record or a retention schedule or a records index. We may touch on that very briefly, but we're not going to talk about the nuances of doing that. Today, we're going to focus on you, and we're going to focus on your organization, and we're going to focus on people. And we'll talk about records management organizational behavior. We're going to talk about building your case for records management program support, sourcing your champion, records management program funding. It all comes down to the money. And if you get that money, there's got to be accountability to your stakeholders. And we'll finish up with talking about the annual request for support of your records management program. So let's jump into it, and we're going to go right into Q and Ray. Q and Ray is a little bit different in this class one. Usually Q and Ray is you, the attendees, asking me questions, and then I come up with the answers for you and try to help you out wherever I can. The Q and Ray today is a little different. I'm posing a question to you. I'm not going to ask you to give me the answer. I'm just going to ask you the question, and that is, who loves your records management? I can tell you that I walked into Commerce Bank to run their purchasing department. I got introduced to my staff. We were at the warehouse. Our purchasing offices were in the warehouse. And before my boss left, he walked me into that warehouse, which was 10,000 square feet of unstructured, unmanaged physical records, and said, congratulations, you have also inherited records management. And that was I didn't even understand what records management was all about. But it's one of those things where it works with me because I'm a very structured person, and records management is all about structure. So when we say who loves you records management, it's truly the dedicated records professionals. Um, do I love purchasing and vendor management and contract management? Absolutely. I think they complement when I'm involved in records management. But I truly love records management. Some people go, God, it's got to be so boring for you. Not in the least. It's extremely interesting to me, and it has been and hasn't stopped over 30 plus years. I still love it. I'm still glad I walk into the office every day to do records management. It's who I am and it's what I do. But I will tell you that if you asked around your organization, you're probably not going to get a lot of people that say they love records management. Hopefully you do. And hopefully the goal is that you can get some of those people to elevate how they think about records management so your program runs successfully. We're going to talk to you about your lollipop moment. I know that sounds weird. A number of years ago, attending an ARMA regional leadership conference, a senior person at ARMA got up and spoke. And one of the things they talked about was, have you ever had a lollipop moment? What I'm going to ask you to do after this class is over, whenever you have the time, is I want you to check out this TED Talk. It was done, well, as it says on the screen, 14 years ago at TEDx in Toronto. And a gentleman named Drew Dudley did this TED Talk called Leading with Lollipops. It's a little over 6 minutes of your time. It's well worth it to listen to. He's got a sense of humor I like. He knows how to get things across, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But what I will tell you is this. It is important to understand that everyone has a chance to be a leader, no matter what level you are within your organization. Even if you are the newest hire, or you're an admin, or you're in the C-suite. The question is, what do you do to communicate with your colleagues? What do you do to help them out, which resonates with them? So in essence, you're giving them that lollipop. You're spreading lollipops of wisdom and knowledge, and you've affected somebody, and you may not have even known it, but you have. And it's really important to understand that we all have that power. We all have that ability to be a positive influence on other people, and no matter what we do. So please check out the TED Talk, Drew Dudley, Leading with Lollipops, and you'll find out that you're also a part of that group. And understand that what you do today is planting seeds that will grow in the future. Organizations are about people, and we look at organizations in all different ways. And a lot of times you'll see those org charts where they build that pyramid. It's no different in any organization. Usually what you have is an organizational period that, kind of looks like this. You have senior management at the top. It's built in a hierarchy, most senior people down to the lowest senior people. So in the center of the pyramid, you have middle management. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the admin people and the operations people. Basically, the people at the very top are hopefully setting the direction for the organization. That's managed by the people in the middle. And all the tasks are carried out by the people through their admins and operations. It's listed to me not in the level of importance of who you are and what you do. This pyramid is set in the level of hierarchy, most senior down. I came from Commerce Bank. We were our own brand, our own slogan, America's most convenient bank. We had programs called Wow the Customer, where we went above and beyond every day that we could. So in the customer pyramid, the most important person or people are at the top, and that's the customers. And when you think about your records management program, I want you to think about all the people that you service, your customers, the internal customers and the external customers. And I want you to realize they are at the top of your pyramid because they are the most important. Now, senior management is at the bottom of the pyramid, not because they're the least important, but because senior management has to build the foundation from everything that you put forward to know that it's supported and it works. Your program, your policies and procedures, all the documents that you use, everything that your program is set up on. And that then you're supported by the admins and the operation people who help carry it out. So it's not that senior management is the least important. In this pyramid, they're building the strong foundation that supports and promotes the service that happens to the customers that are at the top. And now you're going, all right, Ray, where are we going with this one now? Yes, we're going to the records management pyramid of dedication. And all this is a pyramid that shows that the records management people are at the top of the pyramid, because this is dedication pyramid. We are the most dedicated to records management of anybody. The rest of our organization, I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. Some people don't care about records management or care very little. Some people do. But ultimately, the records management people are the most dedicated. From there in the middle, you've got the believers. Those are people that work in your organization that believe in records management along with you. They may not be as passionate as you are. They are not, diehard believers, but, they believe, they know it should happen. But the majority of the pyramid of dedication for records management are the followers in your organization. And they don't really care about records management. They know they had to perform it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they're just called the followers. What I'm asking you to do and consider as you promote your program is to grow your records management pyramid of dedication. And the way you do that is to educate the followers so that they become believers. You want the section of believers to grow, and you want the section of followers to get smaller because now they're believers. And if you can grow the number of believers in your organization in records management, then the chances of you have a successfully implemented program grow exponentially. It's all about changing the mindset of the people that are working with you in your organization. I love this picture. I really do. And I'll also take a step back and tell you that a business card, and I still have some of them, but a business card I had years ago that I used to hand out at ARMA meetings told you who I was. I'm Ray Davis, and told you how to contact me. But my title was Records Management Behavioral Strategist. And all that was a fancy way of saying records management is about the people. Let's face it, software doesn't get written without people. Code doesn't work and function until a person starts it. Physical records don't get saved. Electronic records don't get saved. Shared drive, SharePoint, regular software, line of business systems, they don't get created without people. So it all comes down to, can we get the people within your organization to join you and have positive organizational behavior so that records management is a success? When I look at this picture, and I'll give a shout out to, I used to do a radio show called Inside the Records Room, and my co-host at the time was Jeff Glover. Jeff Glover is an amateur cyclist, so every time I see this picture, I think of him too. But I look at this picture and I say, this is a records management team. They're all wearing the same helmet. They're wearing the same jerseys. The colors of their bikes are the same, right down to the orange tape that's on the handlebars. There's 6 people in that photograph, and they're all leaning at the same angle because they're trying to win the bike race, obviously. But they're all working together as effectively as they can as a team, which means they all believe they're one, they all work together as one, and they accomplish the goals. Today, I want to focus on the positives. I don't want to focus on the negatives. If I were to say to you, oh, list some negative behaviors of your coworkers, you could probably rattle off a list. I don't want to do that today. Let's focus on the positives. So if I am looking for the best behaviors from my colleagues, and I want to build support for my records management program within my organization, I'm going to try to align myself with colleagues that are into problem solving, that have a great work ethic, that have effective communication. They're collaborators. They're adaptable. They're respectful. And they also realize records management, like everything else, always has room for improvement over time. We will not do records management 3 years ago exactly the way we do it today. Things will change. And we sure aren't doing records management the way I did it 30 years ago. So I'm always looking for the best from my colleagues so that I can build that support and tap into that. And if by chance I happen to hit some colleagues that exhibit negative behavior, I try to educate them. I try to bring them into the fold. I try to get them over to the positive side so we can find out what their skill sets are and what works best with them so they can join the team as well. I had a problem one time with an employee within my department, and I was sitting with human resources at the time. And I happened to say something to the effect of, they're going to have to change their attitude. And the human resources person corrected me right from the start. And basically, what you see on that first bullet point is exactly what they said to me that day. You can't tell someone to change their attitude, but you can work with them to change their behavior. Because behavior is something from an organizational standpoint they can be graded on. Now, you saw the previous picture of the bike riders. And if you look at this picture of the bike riders, it's different. They're wearing all different helmets. They're wearing all different jerseys. And that's probably because in this picture, they're from different cycling teams. They're not all from the same cycling team. But my goal is if you have a picture of organizational behavior that's different with everybody, hence the different colors of the jerseys and helmets and bikes and things like that, over time, you want to tap into their positive organizational behavior and get the jerseys to change so they're all the same color, your team. So how can you do that? Well, you've got a lot of things inside of you that can be shared with those people. You have information about records management and information governance. Why do you want to do it? Why do you do it? It's important that they do those things. You have knowledge, maybe over time. I've got over 30 years in records management. I can tell you how it was done 30 years ago, how it's done today, speculate how it may be done in the future. And all these things may tap into the positive behaviors that would make them want to join. I am the ultimate team player. Is it nice? My sport is racquetball. Is it nice to be on a court and win a game of singles? Absolutely. But I gain greater pleasure from being on the court and winning in doubles because I am collaborating with my teammate on the court and we are working to obviously win the match, but we're working together as a team. And that's the same thing I want to do when I'm trying to run a records management department and promote a records management program. And also you want to be able to clearly define success for the end users and for the people you're trying to get to join the team, get on board with records management. How do you define success? And how can you tap into their positive organizational behavior to get them to come on board? A motivating factor for that, and some of you may recognize that, is WIIFM. Well, while that sounds like a radio station, although that's usually one character, a little too long because they're usually 4 characters, WIIFM stands for What's in It for Me. And if you can show the end users and your colleagues in your organization why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, how it may benefit them financially, efficiency standpoints from how they operate, reduces their time on doing things, improves their level of customer service, reduces their risk, improves their security. If you can share that with them and realize you're not just trying to dump something on them to get rid of it, but you're trying to get them to adopt the things that need to be done because of the positive outcomes that can happen from it, and they will benefit as well. You've just defined what's in it for me, for them. And if there is something in it for them, then they'll participate. And that's what's important to know. Okay, nothing happens. We just say, I need X amount of dollars and X amount of resources. I want it. And senior management goes, okay, here you go. Doesn't happen. You have to start building your case for records management program support. And that means talking to all the people throughout your organization. And it all starts with you. You need to answer the question, why should you be the person running records management for your organization? And hopefully, and there's some bullet points here, hopefully some of these bullet points, if not all, you can say yes to, and maybe you hopefully will have more bullet points that could be added to support your case. If you can't tell it by now, I am very passionate about records management, truly, top to bottom. It's what I love to do. And there's education that I've got. So whether it's book smarts or knowledge, which is street smarts, over 30 years being in the profession, I'm definitely the person to run a program. I'm a person that thrives on structure. Just ask Rich. If Rich tries to do something where he calls me up and he wants to wing something on a moment's notice, Rich knows that is not the time to do that with me. I love structure. So when you're talking about running a program where you have to have a retention schedule and you should have a records index and you should follow the records management life cycle, and here's the type of employees you need, and here's the job descriptions, and here's the policies, and here's the procedures. That's where I thrive. I love structure. And then obviously leadership. If you're going to run the program, you should have a level of leadership, and leaders come in all different packages. When I talked about racquetball, I'm a certified racquetball instructor. I can coach everybody from the newest player that steps on the court, which is a beginner, all the way up to, although I don't do it, professional level players. What I will tell you is you need to find the right coach to help you in that endeavor. I tend to joke around a little bit. I am serious on the court, but I joke around a little bit. I try to bring humor into play, but I can tell you 5 or 6 different ways to do the same thing: hitting a forehand, hitting a backhand, what's your court position, and shot selection. And I can do the same thing in records management. And I deem myself someone who wants to stand up and be that person to lead the team and lead the program. And I'll also work to develop the leaders from people that are under me so that they can move up the ladder and get a promotion and get that same opportunity that I did. So hopefully you can answer the question, why should you be the person running records management? We asked this question last semester, and there's no real 100% right answer. Where is records management home in your organization? And of course, we go across the screen and we say accounting, executive, information technology, legal, or other. As I said, I went to Commerce Bank. I went in to run purchasing. I got led into a warehouse where all the boxes were for physical and paper records. And that's where it was. Records management was a function in the purchasing department, and purchasing reported to accounting. Would I recommend that's where records management's home is? Probably not. It worked for Commerce Bank. And also I was tapped into the CFO and the budget. So that helped me in some ways, but that's, it can happen, although I don't see that as a common place where records management could be. If you're a large organization and you have an executive area, perhaps you've got a link to the C-suite. That happens periodically. I've talked to people who said, records management should really be in information technology. Well, why is that? Well, information technology is about software and hardware and systems and repositories. And, records management is now going electronic, maybe not 100%, but a good portion of records management is electronic. So we're better to have records management report than information technology. Again, that's a perfectly fine answer if it works for your organization. Legal is another area. In banking and investments and insurance, there was a lot of litigation that we had to respond to and deal with. So even though we didn't report to legal, we had our own legal department at Commerce Bank, and we very well could have. And of course, I just put other with a question mark because there are probably a lot of other areas in an organization that records management reports to that I haven't even thought of, but they could. So it's going to depend. It's going to depend on your organization itself. Your biggest challenge in this whole thing of promoting your program and getting the funding and the sponsorship level that you need is overcoming obstacles. I want you to think of selling records management as you being in a true sales position. And people in your organization are going to come to you and say, oh, well, what about this? Oh, well, what about that? Case in point, I like to watch shows that deal with, real estate sales. So whether it's, Bahamas Life or Mexico Life or House Hunters, they show the husband and wife or whoever, 3 or 4 places, could be houses, condos, or apartments. And by the end of the 30 minutes, they pick one. It drives me crazy when these people go do their tours and they walk in and they all start, I shouldn't say all, majority start with the negatives. Oh, there's carpet. Oh, the appliances in the kitchen aren't updated. Oh, this is this. Oh, this is that. They're focusing on the negative. But it reinforces to the real estate person that if they think they're going to sell that house or that condo, they have to overcome every one of those challenges. Because if not, the person's not going to want to buy. And the same thing is true for you and your records management program. Why should we have a records management program? How does it benefit myself? How does it benefit my staff? I have to step away from my core responsibilities to do the records management stuff that you want me to do. Why should I do that? What I encourage you to do is think about questions that could be asked of you, or maybe over the years, if you've been there for a while, what questions have been asked of you so that you develop answers to those and you then overcome the obstacles and move on and hopefully get their approval, get them to join with the positive behavior and help you promote your program. One of the things that I pride myself on is being able to communicate at all levels of an organization. And I also realize that that communication level is different with each area. So if I'm talking to C-suite people, they don't want to get down into the weeds. They don't need to know all of the details. They want a 50,000-foot overview. And that's what you have to give them. So it's bullet pointed responses. It's on their level. Again, they have to talk about how much money are we saving? Are we gaining any operational efficiencies? Where are we making improvements? That's what they want to be able to tell the people in the organization. When it comes to middle management, they want to know more details about what you're trying to do, because ultimately, when it comes to the admin and the operations people, they're going to get the most detail that middle management says, well, now you have to do this. You're going to get more involved. So when you have the answers to the questions that are potential obstacles, understand that you may have to word things differently based off of who you're responding to, who's asking the question. Why does your organization need a records management program? Expect that one. That's going to be a question that's asked over and over again. And just what you see on the screen here, improve productivity and efficiency, cost containment or cost reduction or cost elimination. These are all answers to the question. Now, I will also tell you that you can have cost containment, cost reduction, and elimination, but you have to understand records management is not a revenue generator for your organization. It never will be. When I was in banking, lending was a revenue generator because the bank would lend out money. People were paying back that loan with interest. So lending was a revenue generator. Records management is not. It works through saving money. Whether you're spending less, you keep the cost the same, it doesn't go up, or you have the ability to eliminate the cost whatsoever. Records management is not just about how do we save the records. It's how do we get it back when we have to respond to litigation. So we have to be able to find those records. So when you can do that, there's improved decision-making because you've got the ability to get those records back and come back with answers. And then there's legal compliance, responding to litigation, regulatory compliance, risk management, a level of improved customer service. And depending on your organization and how your marketing is done, there could be positive organizational image that's known by the outside world. I want you to include your teammates. This isn't just about you, and it's not just about your staff. When I was at Commerce Bank, I called it a records management council, and I had people from each department that attended that council. I think in today's world, they would probably call that an information governance council, but it can still be a records management council. And you all play your role, and you're all there for records management. So you're not in it alone. You can't do records management alone. You need help, no matter what size your organization. So remember to include your teammates whenever possible. Again, depending on your organization, do you do something called a strategic plan? We did at Commerce Bank. And that strategic plan starts with senior management doing a strategic plan for the whole entire organization. How many new branches are we going to build that year? How many new states are we going into? How many new employees are planned to be hired? Where do we think the revenue is going to be? So between revenue and expenses and growth, they're going to build this strategic plan. I encourage you, even in a small organization, which may just refer to mission, vision, and goals, to mirror image the strategic plan of your organization. Or if your organization only has mission, vision, and goals, how do you support the mission, vision, and goals? How does records management apply to that? Because it should always mirror image that. How does your plan support theirs? Strategic plans are anywhere from 3 to 5 years, again, based off the practices of your organization. I'm not trying to brag because I was the records manager and I was the director of strategic sourcing. So to say I was responsible for the success of the strategic plan, I was in my own small way, but the whole entire organization made that happen. The regulators and the news media came to us one time and said, you guys do a 5-year strategic plan, but you usually accomplish it in 3 years. So why don't you just call it a 3-year strategic plan? And we never realized it that way. But it's good to know, are you accomplishing the strategic plan as you've written it? Are things slower than you expected? Is it faster than you expected? And therefore, you have to have constant review and analysis. So you're going to monitor the progress and define if the goals and objectives are being accomplished. And you'll make updates when necessary. If you're not on the right course, you're going to make changes because you want to accomplish your strategic plan, and then you want to report your accomplishments. So when you're talking about your part of a strategic plan or your part of supporting mission, vision, and goals, that you share with everyone how you did that. Tell them about the successes. My mom used to say when I would come home and I would, I was happy about maybe how I did that day. If I played basketball at school, I scored X amount of points, or if I played baseball, I got this many hits. And she'd say, self-praise stinks. And I get it. It's all about the ego. And you want to remove ego from it whenever possible. It's not about you, it's about the team. And I agree with that 100%. But I will also tell you, in today's world, if you don't tell people in your organization about your successes, then they will never know. And they need to know, because that's a part of you getting to do what you need to do with your program. And let's talk about a very key individual in your program. And that is someone that you will eventually define as your records management champion. It's a person that you can go to that will support it, communicate with the organization about it, and hopefully will give you the clout that you need to get your program off the ground and running. It all starts with the process in your own house. Again, when I first started, records management was a function that reported the purchasing, that rolled up into accounting. So my goal was to manage up and manage down within my own house. So my boss was told everything, and so should yours. Your boss needs to be aware of all your initiatives, whether they're proposed or they're actually in progress. Get their input, get their feedback, and get their approval of your initiatives before they happen. It's always good to breeze something by somebody and get their thoughts. And maybe you might want to change a couple things here or there before you actually launch it. And you can also ask them, who would they think could be your senior champion? When it comes to things like this, and you talk about, you probably heard this thing before where it says it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. When you're trying to launch a records management program, that is a major initiative that should only be done if you have approval to make it happen. Managing down is where you're telling your staff or the people that would be involved in this, here's what we're looking at doing. Here's the plan we're trying to propose. And you're also trying to gain from them, are they willing to support it if and when your proposal is approved? Because if you get the proposal approved and they don't think they can do it, or you don't have the right people to do it, that's the start of a problem. So make sure everybody's on board. Make sure that you manage up so your boss is aware. Nothing should ever take them by surprise. Nothing. If someone in the organization mentions something good or bad about your program and they don't know about it, to me, that's a fail. You need to be keeping them up to date on everything. So you manage up and you manage down to your staff so they're aware of everything. Nobody's surprised. Everyone is on the same page. From there, you need to look in your organization, and I don't mean this to be funny, it's probably someone of senior standing, which is why you can call it a senior champion. They have influence with their senior peers. I mean, it's their level, and if you can have one senior person be your champion, they're also going to be your champion with the other senior people at their level to get them on board. Over time, they've attained a level of respect and stature. They can support your initiative and make records management directive. So when they say do it, it's not a suggestion. The organization does it because they deem it as something that is to be followed. Okay, couple different size organizations. We had it at Commerce. We were a large organization. Do you have a C-suite in your organization? Maybe you do. Now, this would be ideal. If you have a chief records officer in the C-suite, there's your senior champion already. I've never been in a C-suite that had one. So we had to go to other people. It could be any of these people here, and there's other C-suite people that could be listed, added to this list that might work for you. But ultimately, you have to look in your organization and say, who would the senior people be? Who would be willing to listen? Give me an audience to see if I can get support for this. Now, you may work for a smaller company. Well, there's senior people in that smaller company. And I'll tell you, probably one of the smallest organizations I worked in, we sold products to restaurants and bakeries. And we were a national company. Our division was located in Southern New Jersey, where I'm at. We sold to Southeast Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware. We had a general manager, we had an office manager, we had about 6 office support staff, 2 or 3 people in the warehouse, and about 8 to 10 drivers who were making deliveries, and their bosses were the salespeople. So let's just say we had a couple dozen people. If I was looking for a senior person in that small company, I would probably think of starting with the office manager because they're the senior person in the office. And if I got their blessing and said, hey, how about I talk to the GM? What do you think? So if you're in a smaller company, you still have senior people. Granted, you don't have as many people as a large company would have, but there's still that level of seniority. And who do you need to go to? And if what we tried to propose in our division was something that we wanted to promote, then my general manager would take that to the HQ people on the national level. So again, it's just a matter of understanding small company, large company, medium-sized company, who's the senior person you want to go to, find that champion. If you have a champion, it's much easier. Number one, you'll get their feedback and get hopefully their wisdom about what to do. And number two, you'll get their support. All right, let's talk about records management program funding. Create your own records management budget. That includes everything. Could be staff, technology of computers and software, could be office equipment. Do you need office space? Are you running a physical records program? So you need warehouse space and warehouse equipment. What program expenses are you going to have? You should be training your organization, big or small, doesn't matter. Your organization needs to be trained on records management. And once you create your budget, who should the budget be presented to for review and approval? Again, we could probably do a whole class on budgeting for records management. And then it also helps to understand what is your budget year? Is it a calendar year, January through December? Is it a fiscal year, July through June? Or for the US government, is it still October through September? So you have to understand what is your budget year. So if you're tasked to make a budget, you know what time frame you're making it for. And also understand, do they want just numbers that are totals? Do they want a summary? And do they want a supporting spreadsheet or some type of report that shows how that breaks down on a monthly basis? How would your person want that information presented? All right, let's talk about creative funding. First, there's your budget. And maybe this is a budget where you're creating this program from scratch. It could be a budget where you've come in, they have a program, but you're looking to make changes. So you're going to do that budget. But there's other ways that you can look at your budget and maybe get a little bit creative. Can you carry over approved budget money from one year to another? Let's just say I'd budget something for, say, $10,000 a line item in my budget, and in that budget year, I only used $5,000 of that 10. Can I carry the $5,000 over to the next year? I don't know what percentage would say yes. I think there would probably be a fair number that say no, but you never know. You have to ask the question. Or when it comes to your budget, can you use approved budgeted money for something in your records management program other than what it was budgeted for? I mean, it is still records management related. So let's just say you wanted to do scanning, and you didn't get the budget approval for the line item for scanning, digitizing documents, but you budgeted a certain amount of numbers for the destruction of physical records, and you didn't use up all that money. Can you now propose that you take the money that you did not use for destruction because you didn't need to use it, and are you allowed to move that over into the digitization line item? Again, it all depends on your organization. The money's there and the money's been budgeted. They may say yes, but you've got to ask the question. You just can't do it. You've got to ask the question. Now, it's safe to say that paying for something on your own is great, but what's even better is working what we call OPM, and that means other people's money. So you're looking at someone else's budget. So the question is, will your organization allow one area to share unused budget money for your initiative? So let's just say IT had extra money they're not going to use. Can they gift that money from their budget to your records management budget? You don't know till you ask. And finally, another way of creating funding is if you get an internal sponsor. If you're trying to launch this program, can you focus on one particular area? And because you're focusing on their area and making them more efficient right away, would they be the sponsor for getting this program off the ground? All right, accountability to your stakeholders. It's really important that if you get approved, you get the budget, you get the funding, and you launch your program, you got to be accountable. So financially, you're going to talk about cost savings as well as process improvements. You're going to talk about how you're legally compliant, that you're covered in the risk management area, and that you're also covering customer service, that you are honoring all the service level agreements and the key performance indicators. It's really important that if you get the chance, you make sure everybody knows what you're doing. When you accomplish your goals, you and your team are inspiring a number of things within your organization. You're building trust. You're building their confidence in you because you came through. Because you're all working together, you're dealing with teamwork, a level of reliability. You've become a resource for them. They can count on you. So if they need help in a particular area, they feel comfortable. They can come to you now. and they will want to work with you because they were successful with you before. Bottom line is, when you accomplish your goals, you're opening the door for having future initiatives. Just like your retention schedule, your records index, your policies and procedures, these aren't a one-time thing. It's the annual quest for support of your records management program. So the big question for you is, do you need to ask for resources every year? Everything all over again? Do you have to justify your staff and all the various things? Now, obviously, if you've already got computers and office space, you don't have to buy the computers again. But what do you need to do? Or do you only need to ask for new resources? Again, I know what my budgeting practice is. I don't know what yours is, but those are the questions that should be asked in year 2. And you may be asked to go back and do a budget versus actual. What did you budget the previous year? What were the actual numbers? And again, we keep saying it's not just a one-time thing. So remember, self-praise stinks. Well, you need to be able to promote your successes. So what steps are you taking to keep your organization informed and up to date? Are you doing an electronic newsletter? Just giving them information about your program and accomplishments. Or maybe you get a periodic email. Maybe you have an internal website about records management. Make sure you communicate at the right frequency. In essence, you need to become a marketing expert. And when I say expert, you need to be familiar with marketing and how to promote and the proper channels to make that happen. So going out there and buying a basic book on marketing is a good way to educate yourself on where you need to consider, getting your program promoted. Tell your records management story 24/7, 365. And if there's a leap year, do it 366. Now, again, understand the right frequency. So you're not going to go out and bug everybody 365 days a year. Pick the right frequency, but make sure you're available to tell your records management story and tell your successes, so people are aware of it and they know that it continues to happen. We're going to end today's class by saying, I want you to enjoy the journey. It's a tough journey, but it's a fun journey. And bottom line is, the journey ends when you retire. So the journey never ends. Each step of the journey has importance, and expect the path of your journey to change along the way. Just like you see these railroad tracks are bending to the left, next time it might bend to the right, they might go up, they might go down. It's never a straight path. It would be nice if it is, but we have to deal with reality, and we know that that's not going to happen. But success happens when you listen, when you share your knowledge, and you believe in your team. All right, I want to say congratulations. We've completed class 1. Again, let's recap. We talked about who loves you, records management, the organizational setup and pyramid of dedication, records management, organizational behavior, building your case for support, sourcing your champion, records management funding, accountability to your stakeholders, and the annual quest for support. Preview of class 2 is on the road again, the intersection of RIM and discovery. And I will tell you, we will have a couple of guests on the air next class with me, which will really be fun. We'll tell you who they are at the beginning of next class. Your records management extreme championship performance tip as we get closer to the end here. I want you to feed the leader within you. Please go out and look at that TED Talk, Lollipop Moments. Keep handing out those lollipops, because the people you touch today with your knowledge and your passion can be the next generation of leaders for records management and information governance. Before we go, we do have one question that I want to address. We have an individual, Whitney, who says, what are some of the best practices for large organizations that don't have departmental records liaisons to get necessary information about records and information governance across? Whitney, what I would tell you is this, and I was with Commerce Bank, and we were from Maine to Florida, all the way up and down the East Coast. I can't tell you the number of departments we had. It would be nice if we had records liaisons. One of the things that I did was I started by building my own records management council. I went out to the areas I knew I had to influence and educate, and tried to find either an admin person or someone who in particular was handling the records for that particular area. And we started our own records management council. It was nothing that was, it was just something, a group that we could depend on, where I could communicate at a particular basis. I could hear their pain points. I could address their questions and their comments and their concerns. They could ask me any question. I could ask things of them. That's a fluid organization because people come and go, so that's going to change all the time. So whether it's a person that is handling the records in a particular department or a particular area, or an admin person that's responsible for it, make the effort to reach out and start your own records management council. I encourage you to use virtual platforms like Teams, especially Teams, because you have the ability to post documents there. You can set up your own group, so you can send a message out to your entire group and they'll see it. All they have to log on is they see it, and they can communicate back to you, and the conversation is happening electronically back and forth. It's being stored for people to view in the future. But the bottom line is you have to make it happen. So I'm glad you asked the question. I'm glad you want that level of interaction, but I'm going to tell you, you have to make it happen. It's going to take some time. Just identify a few quick areas in the very beginning, start small and build on it from there. And pretty soon you'll have the network that you're looking for, and you'll get your word out and you'll get your cooperation because you'll build your own team called a Records Management Council. So I hope that answers your question. Again, it's not their core business, it's yours. So work to bring them in and get them onto your team as well. All right, thank you very much for joining us today. I want you to join us for our next class of our spring semester, Raising the Records Management Bar. Class 2 is on the road again, the intersection of RIM and e-discovery. That'll be March 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you very much. Do want to say, if anybody has any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can always email me at raymond.davis@id-llc.com. And Rich as well. You can do richard.slaughter@id-llc.com. Would love to hear from you. And again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.